Okay, well, okay, let's get started then. So one of the things I've been doing for the last, I guess, maybe month or two, and also the last 2 or 3 years, is kind of keeping an eye on how well we send out updates and buffer publish. So if a customer comes along and says, I want to send my post out at 3:04 p.m., do we send that update out at 3:04 p.m.? Or how badly do we fail at sending it out at 3:04 p.m.? And it all kind of relates to how much capacity we have in terms of our workers, and also like how popular sort of certain times are. If you look through our kind of what times people tend to post the most, you'll see that we have this sort of a background rate, like quite low, and then on the hour we get like a 5 times spike. So everybody wants to post on the hour for whatever reason. Everybody wants to post on the hour, so everyone else wants to post on the hour as well, which is kind of crazy. But our traffic basically peaks up to like 5 times factor every hour. As a result, we struggle a little bit on the hour because we just don't have we have all these update workers whose basically job is to kind of grab the update text and basically send it out to Twitter or to Facebook or whoever. And at certain times of the day, on the hour specifically, there's not enough stuff running and we kind of get behind a little bit. Only by like a minute or two typically, but it kind of, some customers notice it if they're kind of really particular about, they want that update to go out on an hour mark. Even then, most hours are fine. Like if people want to send out at 6 o'clock in the morning, we can cope with that pretty well. The big ones though are usually around sort of UK time, sort of 4, 5, 6 p.m. So that sort of equates to the US West Coast waking up and kind of doing stuff. So the typical sort of numbers we're getting, like I just looked through like this year just to see how well we were doing or how badly we were doing. And I think the worst I found was the 24th of January. We had almost 2/3 of our updates weren't going out in the minute that they were supposed to go out. And even then, regularly, if you look sort of around, I think this was for the sort of 5 p.m. UTC time, there's regularly 40 to 50% of updates are late. So we're kind of almost sort of, 50-50, we get it out of commerce to see it's going to go out. So one of the things I kind of asked myself was, okay, how can we do a bit better with what we've got there? And right now we have a whole bunch of workers. We have 3 instances whose only job is to send out updates. Each of them has roughly, I think, about 70 workers each. So we have about 210 workers, and all they do is kind of wait for an update and send it to Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So that's quite a lot. The average, I think, roughly they take about 2.75 seconds per update. So they're not too slow. Obviously, there's some network requests, sometimes images have to be done, stuff like that. So they're pretty fast. But I think we found that they're just not quite fast enough. So I didn't want to completely re-architect, how buffer publish works. That's a bit of a project that's more longer term. So I was trying to look for like a quick win, and I had my eye on the analytics workers. There's a whole bunch of analytics workers. Roughly, there's the same number. If you add up analytics and quick analytics, there's roughly the same number of workers there as there is for the update workers themselves. So I thought, maybe we could just turn all those analytics workers into update workers for these particular times, and then see what happens. So I created a feature flip, and off we went. So, any excuse for a Martian reference as well. So this is good. So my kind of theory was, because the number of workers there was roughly equal, we could, in theory, cope with like a 50%. If we had a 50% late rate, we could have doubled our capacity. We should be able to make all those go on time. So that was kind of my maths. There wasn't a great deal of it. There's no integrals. There's nothing really very complicated. Let's just get on and do this thing. So I kind of very carefully took our update worker and extracted all its guts out and put it into a new service, inspired by Jose's work. We started a lot of that kind of stuff in some other areas of buffer publish. And then once that kind of core code had been moved out to like a library effectively, I then sort of tweaked the analytics workers and the quick analytics workers so that when the hour mark came along, they'd stop being analytics workers, quick analytics workers, and they'd switch to listening to a different queue and then sending out updates instead. So I did that, and I kind of, yeah, got a bit scared, and then wondered what would happen. Took a deep breath, and then I kind of went and did it. And it worked pretty well. I saw sort of roughly a sort of uptake of like 10 to 20% percentage points. So if it was sort of a 40% late rate previously, with this new kind of strategy, on the hour mark we get sort of 20% late rate, which seems a good start for like a relatively small change. But it didn't seem quite enough. I was kind of unsatisfied really. So I sort of thought, what else? What am I doing wrong? I thought, it really should be a lot better than that. I must have missed something. And I kind of went back to it, and one obvious thing that eventually sort of came out of my mind, that what I was doing was in the update work, in the analytics workers, I was checking to see like what time they should change over to be an update worker. And I was checking that the time was basically on the hour. But if the analytics worker had been a bit busy in the 59 previous to the 0, it would kind of take up a good chunk of that minute still being an analytics worker. So I thought, okay, we'll swap them over to being update workers on the 59th minute as well as the 0 minute, and see what that does. And that worked even better, I think. So what happened, I think we got another sort of roughly 10% or so updates going out on time, which was pretty awesome. And I think it still varies very much, but it's very peaky, but we're now much more regularly at the worst hour now of the day has gone down from being about 50, 60% being late to being more like 10, 12% being late. So I don't have much else to say. It's just that it was kind of a fun little project that I just kind of had an idea and kind of went and ran with it. And I think it showed kind of the beauty of the feature flip. It's like it was kind of a safe thing to do, but having the power to kind of switch that feature flip on or off gave me a lot of confidence that even if I did kind of completely break things, I could switch it back in a kind of moment, which was quite reassuring. And I could turn it on and off at like quiet times as well, so I could get a feel for if it was actually going to work. I'm way ahead of schedule. Oh, okay. Well, maybe if anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out.
You said be early, so.
Sorry?
You said be early, so.
Yeah, exactly. Taking my own advice. So, what else can I say? I think it's very interesting, the kind of just the general spikiness and why the kind of things are still late. Oh, well, there's a nice slide as well. Some sort of interesting side effects of that. We had a PagerDuty alert that was checking, I can't remember exactly what it was checking, but it was kind of checking that our traffic or the number of updates we were sending was in a certain band. And because all of a sudden we were sending like twice as many updates, the PagerDuty alert went flying off the handle, like, whoa, you're sending far too many updates. Maybe we were like sending anything twice or something crazy. So that was a nice problem to have, and like I upped the threshold in that PagerDuty. The other fun thing that sort of came along was like good old daylight savings time, which like means our peak time changed by an hour. So halfway through my kind of project, like the peak time changed from 5 p.m. to 4 p.m. just because of time. So it's bane of my life. But another one of those kind of interesting things that always pops up with buffers, like there's always character encoding or time zones, or the other one I always forget. But so that was kind of an interesting quirk. And yeah, that was my little story.